What's up, guys? I'm Hellhound, and welcome back to the Midnight Spook Show on the Horror and Metal channel. Oh yeah. And I figured tonight I would go ahead and review a sequel to a movie that I've already reviewed before. There we go. And I probably could review a better one, like Amityville 2, or Night of the Demons 2, or Exorcist 3, or something, but I'm going to review a movie, a sequel to a movie that I reviewed a long time ago, and I was really in the mood to talk about for some reason. And if you missed said review, let's go ahead and recap. Basket Case, directed by Frank Henenlotter. There's never been a movie quite like this. This is one of the most unique and creative horror films I have ever seen. Wow, yeah, it's Basket Case. Concerns a man named Dwayne Bradley, played by Kevin Van Henrik, who he was born with a Siamese twin brother attached to his side, and the doctor separated said brother, whose name is Belial, and threw him away, just left him for dead. Because, you see, Belial is very deformed. He's very small, and he's essentially a head, a top shoulders, and 2 arms, and that's pretty much it. That's what he looks like right there on the DVD cover. Yeah, Belial. Dwayne and Belial, the Bradley brothers. So basically, the plot of the first movie concerns them getting revenge on the doctors that separated him and left Belial for dead. Very good movie. I highly recommend it. It has a very sleazy, very cheesy B-movie vibe. Very creative and original. Really bad, over-the-top acting, but it's part of its charm. It also has a very sleazy New York setting. It takes place in the big city. I love 80s movies that take place in the big city, like this, and Maniac, and Friday the 13th Part 8, and stuff. Love that. Love that 80s big city feel, and then this movie just excels at that. Some great gore, some great kills, some pretty crappy special effects, but they look awesome just because, you know, it further adds to the movie's charm, like I said. Some stop motion, you know, puppets. Belial looks really good, but he's very, very fake looking, you know. His kill's just like a rubber, little rubber puppet, you know, but anyway, if you haven't seen my review for this movie, go check it out, because I highly recommend this movie. You never heard of it? This is one of the movies I saw all the time at the video store when I was a kid. When I was growing up, I saw it all the time at the video store, and I was like, I passed on it every time. I passed by it, and I was like, Every single trip at the video store, I'd look at it and go, someday. And then I finally watched it and fell in love with it. Basket Case, directed by Frank Henenlotter. Now, I already reviewed Basket Case 1, so we're going to go and talk about the first sequel, Basket Case 2. Is it any good? Is it as good as the first movie? Is it worthy of being a Basket Case sequel? Well, there's a better look at Belial right there. Anyway, let's get into the plot first. Anyway, the end of the first movie, spoiler alert, Dwayne and Belial got in a big fight over a woman. Dwayne fell in love. Belial got jealous, thought his brother was abandoning him, killed the woman, and they got in a big fight, and they ended up falling out a window. The Hotel Broslin, which is where they're staying at in the big city, very sleazy, seedy motel with, you know, probably drug abuse and prostitutes and everything. I love that sleaziness the first movie had. Anyway, they fall out of the hotel to the supposed death. That's how the first movie ends. This one picks up right where the first movie left off, even though it's clearly not 1982 anymore, and it's clearly the early 90s. This one came out in 1990, probably filmed in 89, so technically it's still an 80s movie, but it doesn't have the 80s feel the first one did. But anyway, so now, yeah, everybody sees this, the news crews come, the police come, everybody knows about Dwayne and his parasitic former Siamese twin brother, Belial. Everybody knows about it. It's all over the news. It's big news. They even interview this girl that Dwayne was friends with, played by Beverly Bonner. She's a brief cameo. And weirdly enough, you'll notice very early on, Beverly Bonner's brief scene, she is not as over-the-top as she was in the first movie. In fact, I would say Basket Case 2 has much better acting. It's not as over-the-top and crazy. All the people in the first movie were clearly not actors, and they all had that same, like, acting style. They all acted, like, really, I don't know, they all talked really loud and had this, so I think it might have been the director's intention to make it seem as like low budget as possible. Maybe he was trying to make it feel more like, you know, more like an authentic B movie. But anyway, Dwayne and Belial are escape from the hospital, and they're taken in by a woman named Granny Ruth. I believe that's her name, right? Yeah, Granny Ruth. She's played by the Annie Ross, who was also in Superman 3 as one of the villains, and yeah, Granny Ruth, played by Annie Ross, the jazz singer. She takes them away to her secluded mansion where she takes care of people like them, freaks, deformed people, and they live out in the country, but soon they're plagued by the paparazzi. Everybody wants a piece of them. Everybody wants to know about the Bradley brothers, not even knowing that there's even more freaks. Pretty much a gold mine, more freaks than a freaking freak show at the circus. All kinds of reporters and people keep pestering them, and it really gets on their nerves, so Dwayne and Belial decide to fight back. The first movie they got revenge with the doctors that separated them. This time Belial's gonna munch down on some asshole reporters and paparazzi scumbags. So that's what he does. He eats people. He's a monster. And yeah, that's what he looks like. Those are the other freaks in the background. Now, basically that's the basic plot. Now the thing about this movie is, as I said, it's not nearly as over the top as the first one. It doesn't have that sleazy, cheesy B-movie feel the first one had. The first one was so 80s too. It even had kind of a late 70s feel, kind of a late 70s vibe to it. This one, I gotta say, the acting's a lot better. The special effects are way better. Belial actually looks pretty damn good. It looks real. Like when it first shows him in the hospital, I was like, damn, that's a much better puppet than before. But I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. I mean, I kind of like the bad effects in the first movie. It's part of its charm. But this is like a much different story. It feels like a totally different film. It's a sequel, but it tells its own story. And here's my main problem with the movie. It's very clear Frank Henenlotter wanted to make a movie about a house of freaks, which he should have done that. He should have made this, called it House of Freaks, then made Basket Case 2 with Dwayne and Belial's story something separate. Because this movie, they kind of take a back seat. Dwayne isn't really the main character anymore. It's more Granny Ruth. I think she has even more screen time than he does. Dwayne's still has a prominent integral role. But yeah, not as much as the focus is on Belial and as on the Bradley twins as the first movie. The first movie was all about them. It was their story. This time they're helping with a bunch of freaks. And that brings me to the second problem of the movie. These freaks, oh my gosh. That was a good idea that they went to live with a bunch of freaks, but there's no way these things can exist. Ridiculous looking rubber costumes that are way too unbelievable and fantastical, even for me. I like this sort of thing, but these things are just ridiculous looking. I mean, my God, there's like a guy who's got like teeth that are like out to here, looks like a piano keyboard. There's a guy whose head shaped like a moon. There's a guy with big, huge ears. And a guy who's like, his face is nothing but noses. And there's this thing that's like, it's just a giant head and a tiny body. He's got like millions of teeth, it looks like. There's this woman whose head is like so tall, looks like a tree. And the way I'm describing them, it doesn't even sound that bad. You gotta see the movie. These things are like really silly looking. It's a little too over the top. I mean, Belial, obviously he's, that isn't real either. There's no way a creature like Belial could exist. But these things, but that was the charm, that was what the first movie was about. All these other freaks exist too, my God, I can't suspend my disbelief these far. These things are ridiculous looking, they're so silly, they kind of bring the movie down. I feel like if they had more realistic, like in the movie Freaks, which came out in 1932, I believe. If they looked something like that, more real, maybe like a really tall guy, a really skinny guy, a really short guy, a really muscular guy, half man, half woman, somebody with two heads, something like that. Not these damn things. These things are ridiculous looking. They don't look real at all, and they're just, oh my gosh, there's like a frog man and like a living gargoyle for some reason. Like, yeah, these, I could have really done without the freaks. I understand what they were trying to do. Frank Henenlotter clearly wanted to make the movie about the freaks, but I think he just kind of shoehorned Belial and Dwayne into the plot. Sometimes they would pop up and be like, oh, I forgot I was watching a Basket Case movie. So, yeah, I still love this movie. I still think it's great. It's a great sequel. Not as good as the first movie. It's very different. There's no sleazy setting. It's now in the country. It's more centered on Granny Ruth than Dwayne. And also her granddaughter Susan, who's played by Heather Rattray, who has a weird condition of her own, which I won't spoil, but it's another really highly implausible, weird, surreal thing. Kind of reminds me of something from Howling 3. Then there's also, that's Howling 3, by the way, not Halloween 3, in case you misunderstood me. And there's also, and one of the reporters is played by Catherine Measle. I think her name is Marcy. Yeah, she's got a lot of focus too. She's kind of like the main antagonist, I guess you could say. But yeah, Dwayne just kind of like, he's just kind of there. It doesn't really center around him. He's not the main focus. He just like kind of shows up. His story is kind of complicated. He talks really weird too. He was really geeky and awkward in the first movie, but this movie he's even more like, awkward. I think maybe he hit his head really hard when they fell out of the window. But yeah, I still love this movie. I think it's a great sequel. I'll give it about a 7 out of 10. You know, again, it lacks the charm of the original. Way too much is focused on those grotesque, ridiculous-looking freaks that there's no way they could exist. Oh my gosh, I'm probably forgetting the weirdest-looking ones. They're just too silly, and they act goofy. They go, "Ooh," and they run around. I mean, maybe if they'd acted a little serious and talked normal, it would have been fun. But they're just like, oh my gosh, it's like embarrassing to watch. It makes me think of watching like freaking Sesame Street or something. I don't even know. Oh my gosh, but yeah, like. Other than that, I love the story of the paparazzi, the reporters trying to get a piece of the Bradley twins, wanting to know everything. I like the part where there's this guy who claims that he has all these fascinating things on display in an exhibit, like a sideshow type thing. He's got like a mermaid, and like what he says is an alien. Then he claims that Belial, but it's just something made of animal bones. And Belial goes in there and gets revenge on him. Granny Ruth brings him. Granny Ruth is all about like bringing Belial to his victims, just like Dwayne did in the first movie. And yeah, I kind of would appreciate more focus on Dwayne and Belial, less focus on the freaks. Granny Ruth is a good character, and she takes it really seriously too. As I said, this one has better acting than the first movie. It's not as over the top and you know crazy, except for the freaks. They're way over the top and way bizarre and way too surreal. Even though I guess it could be kind of enjoyable. I still think it should be two separate movies: House of Freaks, Basket Case 2. I love Frank Henenlotter. I love his other work. I love you know Frankenhooker and Brain Damage. He's a genius. He's very creative. His movies are some of the most unique I've ever seen. But he should have split this into separate two. I wanted to see more about Belial and Dwayne. I didn't really care for the other freaks. I think they were just a little too silly and kind of dragged the movie down. But it was an interesting plot, though, nonetheless. But yeah, as I said, I like the paparazzi thing. I like all the struggles they go through. Granny Ruth's a good character, although she kind of takes over from Dwayne a little too much. You know, I wanted to see the Bradley twins story explored more, but I guess we already saw the story in the first movie, and I guess Frank Henenlotter realized he couldn't capture that magic again. It was awesome, but all in all, Basket Case 2 is definitely worth checking out, and I will say that it's much, much better than the final movie in the series, Basket Case 3, The Progeny. Now, this one's even more ridiculous. Not only does it focus way too much on those goofy-looking freaks that I talked about earlier, but, oh my gosh, this movie just suffers from, it's overkill at its finest. Look at that. It has some of the most ridiculous deaths I've ever seen. What Belial does to people, he doesn't just like scratch them up and bite them and eat them anymore. He does all these crazy, he chokes this guy and his eyeballs pop out, he twists this guy's neck around, and it just looks really weird. He bites this guy's face off, and it doesn't look good. It's weird looking latex makeup. The second movie had really good special effects, and Belial still looks really good in the third one. It was a good idea that he had a litter of babies. He had little miniature Belials. You know, that was a cool idea, and it was a cool idea how he had a mechanized robotic suit at the end. But other than that, Basket Case 3 pretty much sucks. I'd give it a thumbs down. Not nearly as good as the first two, especially not the first one. But anyway, this is a Basket Case 2 review. Maybe I'll give 3 its own video down the line. But yeah, all in all, I'd still recommend Basket Case 2. Despite some flaws, not enough focus on the Bradley twins, too much focus on the weird-looking, goofy freaks, Granny Ruth kind of taking over from Dwayne, you know, and some other weird things, but it's a pretty good storyline. I kind of like the idea that they're living with freaks. I just wish that not as much time had focused on them, and I wish that the costumes were these elaborate, ridiculous-looking things. When I first saw this, I was like, what the hell am I watching? And, like, who was this movie made for? I mean, I love the first movie, but this is just, like, too bizarre. I watched with an old roommate of mine. He was like, oh my gosh, what the hell is this, you know? But I still recommend it. I still think it's a good sequel. Probably skip part 3. But if you're a fan of the first movie, at least check out part 2, because I think you'll have a good time. It's great to see these characters again. You know, they were definitely missed. This takes place quite a while after the first movie. I don't know why it took like 8 years to be made, but I'd say overall, it was worth the wait, you know? But yeah, this is one of the video store classics, one of those bizarre movies that I ever saw. Something Weird Video, that's right. This is one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. But yeah, Basket Case 2 is a very different movie from its predecessor, but all in all, it's mostly enjoyable. So I give it a thumbs up. Go check it out. Alright guys, I'm Hellhound, and I'll probably review some more sequels to movies that I already reviewed, and I also plan on doing a review of The Gate, from 1986 or 87, 86 I think, and also The Monster Squad, one of my favorite movies ever. It's like The Goonies, but a horror version, so look out for those coming soon, as well as some other videos I got planned. Still got to do my top 10 Stephen King adaptations. Alright guys, I'm Hellhound. Thank you for watching my Midnight Spook Show. Until next time.